Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about all the latest rumors about the Sony a7R5. Since the a7R II, I have dabbled with the Sony range. I now have a Sony a7R III. Absolutely love it. And it's about the time where we can start to expect to get some announcements from Sony concerning the release of the latest version. So really excited about that. Let's talk about some rumors. First, for the image sensor, let's talk about the bad news. At one point, the a7R5 was supposed to be getting a 100 megapixel sensor. The latest rumors suggest that it'll stay at 61 megapixels, just like the Sony a7R IV. So in some ways that's good, in some ways that's bad. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm a professional photographer, I do shoots every day. I haven't lost a single shot for clients clamoring for more megapixels. The 43, 42 that I have with my Sony a7R III right now suit me just fine. I imagine 61 megapixels will be just as well. The imaging pipeline, especially as far as the imaging processor is concerned, I don't really know too much about it, but this new camera is rumored to have the next generation Bion Z XR image processor. This is probably going to be the same imaging processor, maybe with a few tweaks found in the Sony a7S III. This is obviously going to allow the new camera to be able to handle a lot more data more efficiently. I'm sure that this part of the imaging pipeline will allow for the advancement in video capabilities that we're going to talk about next. Moving on to the video capabilities of the camera, this is the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. It looks like from a high level, this new Sony a7R5 will consolidate the specs of the Sony a1 and the Sony a7S III into one nice, relatively affordable package. The rumor is right now that it's going to get the 8K 30/24 spec that you see in the A1, so that's wonderful for future proofing, but let's be clear, baby film mode. We aren't able to get the high frames per second that you see in further, more advanced generations of the tech. But it will come with 4K 120. That's really exciting. That's what the a7S III has, and that was the most tempting spec when I was looking to buy a new camera. So the fact that the new Sony a7R5 will have 4K 120, that's a big win. And to make matters even better, it's going to come with the ability to handle 10-bit footage and maybe 16-bit through an external recorder. That's another rumor. I've been hearing rumblings of that, but we'll see. The 8K resolution will be achieved with a 1.1 to 1.3 times crop. That's the rumor right now. And there will also be a new high-quality 4K mode, which uses the 8K image downsampled to 4K for increased clarity and detail. So that's really awesome. I think that a lot of folks will find quite a bit of use for that. Another rumor that I've been excited about is the ability of this camera to potentially shoot 1080 240. Now, Sony hasn't been giving us 240 frames per second in any camera at this point, and I don't know if that's something in the imaging pipeline that's holding up the tech, but at this point I am hearing some rumblings that we could potentially see 1080 240 frames on this one for super slow-mo footage. That's not something you're going to use all the time, but there are situations where the ability to shoot 240 frames would come in handy. And I don't know about a lot of you guys out there. I am still exporting a lot of projects in 1080p, so that would be a welcome addition. 10-bit color, I briefly touched on this a second ago, but this is another spec from the A1 and the A7S. Both these cameras recorded 10-bit color. The difference between shooting RAW and JPEG, you're going to have more data to work with in 10-bit, and it's going to make the files nicer and easier to edit. You're going to be able to recover more smooth transitions between the colors and an overall cleaner, nicer image. So 10-bit, that's another welcome advancement, and I'm super excited about that too. Along with the new high-tech video modes, we're also going to have memory card storage to be able to handle that. The camera will have dual CF Express Type A SD card slots. With those shiny new video modes comes the need for faster cards and to be able to handle that much more data. The dual CF Express cards should provide fast transfer of data and be able to handle that 8K footage. Now, hopefully at this point, we're saving up our money to be able to afford the memory cards that we would need for 8K. But we've got time still yet. Rumblings are this camera will be announced in July, so we got a little time. Something else that's interesting is in-body image stabilization. This is something that Sony's been slowly plugging along, advancing, step by step, iteration by iteration. There are rumblings now that Sony might expand their in-body image stabilization to 6 stops, which would actually put them on par with Canon's latest offerings. If you don't know how that works, Sony utilizes a slot crop to be able to stabilize the footage, but this would be a welcome change. That extra half stop of stabilization, that's going to give you footage that's that much smoother and nicer, easier to work with. Another feature that I'm really excited about is S-Cinetone. This is a feature that's trickled down from Sony's Cinema line of cameras, made its way into the Sony a7S III. It's been very well received. So the rumblings are now that Sony's going to include that in the Sony a7R5. I think that's going to be great. This flesh-friendly color profile will be making its way into the Sony a7R5. So that's going to be cool. The menu system. This is something that we haven't seen much advancement in, but for the Sony a7S III. And I'll shoot straight with you guys. I haven't had the ability to use the Sony a7S III, so I don't know how good this menu is. I have used the Sony menu system that we have now, the one that's present on my a7R III, the one that you see on the RX100. That menu system's been around for, I guess, the better part of a decade now. But now the rumors suggest that the menu system from the Sony a7S III will be present in the Sony a7R V. Supposedly this will make it easier to navigate. Things will be laid out much more sensibly, rather than just having 16 or 17, 18 pages of functions arranged in no particular order that makes any sense. I think for a lot of folks that could speed up productivity and make the camera a little bit more logical and easier to operate, especially for beginners. So that's cool too. The EVF. There is no spec that gets me less excited than the advancement of EVF technology. I know some folks out there are obsessive about it. I have bad eyes to begin with. I would be lying to you guys if I thought that I could tell the difference between one EVF and the other. For the past few generations, they've all looked pretty darn good to me, but right now the rumor is a 9.44 million dot EVF in this new version. That's only going to help things. You're going to get a much clearer, much nicer image, and I think folks will like that. One more spec. I think that this camera, the rumblings are at this point that the Sony a7R V is still going to have a mechanical shutter to fall back on, but it will rely much more heavy on the electronic shutter. I don't see it being like the new Nikon that was just released, where they're completely ditching the mechanical shutter. I think we still will have a mechanical shutter, at least for this generation, but you will have both shutter types present in this camera. At least that's what the rumor is now. Something else is the ability of this camera to shoot fast. All of Sony's recent released cameras have the ability to shoot fast and churn through their buffers pretty quickly. I think this camera will be no different. I haven't heard the exact bottom line spec on how quickly this one's going to shoot. I've heard mixed messages on this. Guys, I've been using my Sony a7R III for years. I'm really excited about the Sony a7R V. This is going to be a camera that I buy. Barring some calamity and the specs fall through and it looks like it won't be a usable camera for me, I've been using this camera for the better part of 3 years now. So I'm really looking forward to the R5. I intentionally skipped the 4. So let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking about the R5. Are you excited? Which of those specs do you find to be the most compelling? As always, thank you guys so much for watching my channel. If you could, before you go, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.